Geeky Girls Journal. Today is January 15th, 2025, and today I want to just continue the conversation about the book of Job. So if you're coming on in, make yourself comfortable, engage, share this out. If you want to share it with a friend that is wonderful and family members, but we are going to go ahead and get started talking about the book of Job because yesterday I touched on it a little bit. Today we're going to get a little bit more in depth with it, and then you're going to get out of here. So let's do this. So in the book of Job, we were talking about how faithful, well, first knowing that Job is an upright man. God saw him as upright. And when Satan came to, well, actually, it's this thing between God and Satan, right? And God tells him, what about my servant Job? I'm just going to give you a little summary and then we're going to go right into the part that I really want to discuss. And that's your friends don't have all the answers. And I think that's displayed accurately, or I think that's displayed in this book of Job, and I'm going to tell you why after I give you this little summary. So Satan came to God, and God was like, you know what? Well, Satan was roaming. First, he was roaming to find out who he could devour because that's what he does. And then God was like, hey, have you considered my servant Job? And I think that he said, have you considered my servant Job? Because Job's upright, upstanding, and God knew that God knew that Job could handle what he was about to be put through, because why else would God have put him through the long suffering that he went through and the loss that he went through? So that's what my take is, that God trusted that he would make it through this, and we find out that he was absolutely correct. Now that's not without fault, because Job did in this book of Job have this long drawn out discussion about how he was feeling, how he was suffering. He asked questions of God. Even at some point, it might have even seemed like he thought that God was not just, right? And why is God putting me through this? I lost everything. Then at another point, he started talking about, I'm getting ahead of myself. He started talking about how people usually treated him. And you're going to find that around in Job 29. If you go to Job chapter 29, you'll see where he starts talking about himself, what he's done, how the people in this particular community respond to him. When they see him, they smile, they look to him, they move out of the way when he walks through the city. So he was just talking about how self-righteous basically he was. And I don't know, maybe he needs to be brought down a little notch. And I say that because sometimes that's us as well, right? Sometimes we have to be brought down a little bit so that, we're not thinking that we're more mighty and more upright than we really are, because we are still humans. We still have flaws and we still do things. So in this story, we're going to touch on that. But I'm going to backtrack. So God says, consider my servant Job. And they go through this whole thing. And then Satan does everything to Job. He takes away things. His life in the Bible and the way it's described, he was successful, in a lot of people's eyes. He had things and he was quote unquote privileged. And Satan said, you know what? Why wouldn't he? He was kind of questioning, like, why wouldn't he be right and be upstanding? You've given him everything, right? He's telling God, you've given him everything. He's privileged. So why wouldn't he? So this is why he's allowed to test him. So Satan does all this stuff, it's really just attacking Job. And then next you have his three friends that come. Their names are, I wrote them down. Their names are Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. So his friends come and they try to talk to him about why they think he's suffering, right? And this is why I said your friends don't always have the answers. So his friends come. Hey, how you doing, Yay? How you doing, Dixon? Thank you for liking and subscribing. So his friends come and they're here and they're trying to explain to him why he's going through suffering and why he, suffered a loss, why he lost his family, why he's going through all this turmoil, all these challenges. And they're saying, you must have sinned. Obviously, you've done something wrong if God's doing this. So they're rationalizing and saying, hey, it's got to be you, Job. You've done something. Take a look at yourself and let's see what it is that you've done to make God respond to you in this manner. And Job continues to tell him, I've done nothing wrong. I am, basically, he's just trying to persuade them that he's upright and that he's righteous, right? And he's doing all this in chapter, this whole conversation takes place between the friends in chapter 4 through 31. Actually, longer than that, because um, his friend, what's his name? I have to think about what his friend's name is. Elihu comes along later on in around Job 32. He comes along later on, and we're going to get to that. So anyway, you had these set of three friends that came to comfort him and talk to him because Job called. I don't know if he called him, what he did, send a message, but they knew he was going through things. So they wanted to come and comfort him and console him and kind of walk through the issues that he was having. And, like I said, they were saying, you must have sinned, you must have did something wrong. Now, I say that your friends don't always have the answers because they don't. They didn't know why Job was suffering just as much as Job didn't. And I think they were trying to be good friends by offering him suggestion, but also they were missing the mark because that's not why Job was suffering. And if we look through it, we already know why Job was suffering because God allowed it. So could it be sometimes that your friends that you go to that you want to tell them, you want to vent and tell them what's happening in your life and why you have this conversation because you are looking for counsel, you're looking for advice. And while they're trying to give you the best advice that they can give or try to hope to console you or to guide you, they're not always the right person to go to because in this book of Job, we see that they missed it. They weren't accurate at all. They were saying what they thought was the right answer, right? And you had this friend, then you have Job who was beginning to get frustrated with them. And he's like, no, he's basically saying, no, you don't understand. I've done nothing that you're accusing me of. I didn't do any of these things. This is just happening. I don't know why I'm suffering. I don't know why God's allowing this. But I'm telling you, I am innocent, right? And they're like, no, no, no. You must have, for him to make you suffer and lose things like that, you had to have done something. So as I said in the title, your friends don't always have the answer. Sometimes you can go to them and they can give you wise counsel, but not in every situation. Not in every situation because, see, they're not God. They don't see the full picture. They don't understand what God is doing in totality. They don't know why he allowed this to happen to Job. They don't know why he allows certain things to happen to us. They can't answer that question. The only thing they can do is give you a good hypothesis, right? They can say, this is my thesis. This is why I think this is happening to you. But they're not doing anything but offering suggestion as well, or suggesting that this could be why this is taking place. But they don't really know. That's why you have to continue to have a strong relationship with God, with Christ, because if you know Christ as your Father and to be faithful, you have to continue to have faith in him. So not only was this book of Job very insightful about not trying to not completely leaning on your friends because they don't have all the right answers. Hello, how are you? God bless you as well. They don't have all the right answers all the time. Sometimes they can come in through the clutch and you're like, oh, right, okay. And they say something and it's enough to kind of get you out of that bad mood or to help you to remember who you are and who God is and who God says you are, right? They come in and they're like, they say something and it's pleasing to your ear and you're like, okay, maybe they're on the right track. Okay, maybe I just need to get up, shake myself off, and get myself together. And they uplift you and encourage you. So I'm not saying that it's not good to have a good set of friends, because it is, especially a good set of God-fearing friends that can remind you, that, you're only going to go through this for a little while, or you can make it through these things, or you're going to make it through the storm. So in this particular situation, they tried to help their friend. Thank you. Thank you, sad boy. They tried to help their friend. They tried to encourage him, but in fact, it kind of did the opposite, right? It kind of made Job a little frustrated, I think. May have made him angry because he did kind of snap back at him and he was like, hey, you know nothing. And they were like, wait, you don't know everything either. You're acting self-righteous right now, because Job started to get him a whole list of everything that he's done. I did this in the community. I've done that. I've helped this person. I've helped that person. I've been blameless. I'm upright. He just started to sound like nothing was wrong with him in his friend's eyes. So they eventually just stopped talking. They stopped having a conversation with him, even though this was a long, drawn out conversation. You'll see, because it was several chapters in the book of Job where they were just having a conversation and they were trying to talk. Each friend had their long, that each friend was able to articulate to Job why they thought he was suffering, right? And after each friend did that, Job was able to come in and try to plead his case. And then after that, there was this younger person, this younger friend that Job had, Elihu. I think that's how you say it, Elihu, Elihu. And he comes in around Job 32 and he says, hey, no, he's like, I'm angry because the other three friends were being accusatory and saying things that just didn't seem to be in alignment with what he thought God was doing. And he said, I'm the youngest. That's why I waited so long to speak. But now it's my turn. Everybody, please listen to me. It appears to me that just because you're older does not mean that you're more wise. It's the Spirit of God that's in you that allows you to be wise. And he talked for, chapters as well. But his point was more in alignment with what God said to Job. And his point was that God is just, right? God is just. And you may not have done anything. You may be as clean as a whistle, as they used to say. You may be as clean as a whistle. But God makes the ultimate decisions, right? You're not above God. You cannot determine how God wants to do things. And you cannot, you're not God, basically, is what he was telling them. You're not God. And God is fair. God is just. God's going to do everything that is right because God does not make mistakes. God is love. God is pure. So he's trying to convince his friend Job that, you may have not done anything, but God is in control of this situation, right? And God's going to handle things. And then later on, you see Job still trying to plead his case, and he wants to ask God, like, what happened and why is this happening to me? And then God basically tells him the same thing his friend Elihu told him. Listen, I'm the God of this universe, not you. And I'm paraphrasing you guys. This is my summary in the way that I understand it. This is not the word for word from the Bible. This is just my summary in the way that I can break it down and understand it. And hopefully you're getting a good understanding of this as well. If not, ask questions in the comment section. So he's like, hey, God's like, I'm the God of the universe. You don't understand. You don't have enough information to make these judgment calls or to determine why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so then Job kind of snaps out of it. He's like, he's repentant. He repents and he's like, man, God's right. I don't know. I'm not the God of the universe. And then he didn't curse God. He had questions. Like, he had questions about why he was suffering. He had questions about why he was going through things, because even remember, his wife even brought up the fact that, hey, Miss Key, how you doing? How you doing? His wife even said, hey, you need to forget about God cursing because this is what you're going through. And we're experiencing these situations now. Granted, she was probably tired, right? I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, the wife, because she was probably tired, didn't know what to do. And like his friend, she was just trying to explain to him or figure things out the best way that she knows how, right? And we've all been there before where we're trying to figure it out. And in our humanness, in our level of knowledge or the experiences that we've had, we try to figure it out, right? Why is God allowing this to happen to me? Why is God allowing that to happen to someone else? What should I do? How do I go about fixing this situation? But a lot of times, it's not something that you can fix. It's something that you just have to have faith about in that situation. Good morning, Mama. I had Bible study this morning. You did? Hey, Miss Key, well, good. I'm glad you had Bible study. If you want to chime in, go ahead in the comment section. You already know what this is. So could it be that, we have to just, because Job exhibits this in the text, that he was patient. He was going through, like we talked about yesterday, how it almost felt like I was going to say it felt like it was a target on his back. It was a target on his back. His name was Satan. Satan was trying to take him down the best way he could. Thing after thing happened. When somebody was coming to tell him something that happened, somebody else was coming right on their heels and say, oh, this just happened. And then another person was coming. Oh, this just happened. Then it was four people. Then another person came, another messenger or a servant came. Oh, this just happened. And then Job had gotten so like worked up and just tired, probably, right? Just like, why? I'm sure he was thinking, why is this happening to me? And why all at once? That he just tore his robe off, shaved his head, and he was just, I'm sure he was just going through it. How many of you have ever felt like that? Like, it's nothing I can do, but things just continue to happen to me. They keep on piling on one after the other. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to contain this. And you just get so frustrated. You're like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't even know what to do, how to do it. The point of this book of Job is that no, his friends didn't have the answers. I think that they were really trying to be comforting and trying to be a good friend. But the point of the matter is they can't do him the way that God can do him. They couldn't answer questions the way that God could. They couldn't feel that thing that he was looking for. And he was looking for answers. He wanted to figure out, why is this happening to me? I'm doing everything I know to do. You may be doing everything you know to do and still feel like you're hitting your head against a brick wall. What am I to do? We have to stand strong through every test. That's right, Miss Key. You come on in here and tell them. Hey, Tinkerbell, how you doing? I have not been here. No, I know. I'm glad to see you back. Thank you for coming in. Don't forget to hit that like button, y'all. In that moment, just fall on our knees and give it to God. We may cry a little, we may hurt a little. Yes, Miss Girl, you better come in here and say that. Yes, we may cry, we may fall on our knees, we may even shout, we might even be like, God, why? God, why me? And that's not the right question to ask. Why not you? Right? Why not you? And I know it's really natural to ask that question. Why me, God? What did I do? What if you didn't do anything? Just like Job. In this book, it's proven he didn't do anything. He was just there, and God thought, hey, my servant Job, that's a good person. If you want to roam around and devour and take somebody on and challenge them and put somebody through something. What about my servant Job? I know he can handle the test. Like, he didn't say that, but I'm thinking God must have been like, I know he can handle it, because why else would he have said Job, right? So Job remained faithful to God. He never said, I curse God. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I don't believe in God. He was like, okay, I'm going through all this, and I'm going to stay faithful. I remain faithful, even though his friends were telling him things, even though his wife said things. He's like, I'm going to remain faithful. And that's what we need to do in situations, you all. Miss Key said it in here as well. That's how we have to remain. Know that God wants the best for us and that he's faithful. And even though you're going through some trying times, he's going to be there to hold our right hand, right? It says in the Bible, he's going to be there to hold our right hand and walk us through all this. Hey, Buddha, how you doing? How you doing today, Buddha? Tinkerbell, we need God because people has been mocking God. It hurt his feelings. And good morning, Science is my virtual Buddha. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Hey, geeky girls. Hey, I see Buddha coming in the clutch with all those channels. I'm good, and you? I'm doing real well, thank you. So yeah, even though we face obstacles and we face so many different, trials, we still have to keep our eyes fixed on God, right? And in this, another thing I got out of it is when you're looking to your friends for comfort, try to take what they're saying with a grain of salt. Because sometimes what I've noticed is you might be explaining something to your friends and they may be far off, just like Job's friends were. They may be far off because they may be thinking about a prior experience, something that they've been through, and they're trying to give you advice according to how they had to deal with the situation or according to how they got out of the situation. But sometimes, even if you think about it, have you ever had a conversation with your friend and you were going through something, you tried to explain to them the best way you knew how, and sometimes they got it, but then sometimes you're like, wait, that's not what I'm talking about. Like that's not how I feel about this situation, or that's not how I want to handle it. So you have to take the information that they give you and try to make it apply to your life the best way that you know how. The things that they're saying that you're not in agreement with, you throw that thing right out. See, Job was not in agreement with what his friends were saying. He stood to, no, I didn't do anything. He was very consistent with saying, I didn't do anything. I'm a servant of God. I don't know why these things happen to me, right? So he was like, he told them what he was going through, but they still weren't completely understanding what he was saying. They weren't completely understanding his feelings, and he was really, really trying to articulate it the best way he knew how, and yet and still his friends did not have the answers. So the whole point of this conversation is sometimes your friends are not going to have the answers, and you have to rely on God, not on your friends, not on your family, because they're going to say something to try to help you out the best way they know how, but they're not God. They didn't lay the foundations of the earth. They don't know what happened at the beginning. They don't know what's going to happen at your end. So they can only tell you and express things from a place of love if they're a loving friend, right? And they can express things with the knowledge that they have and with the wisdom that they have. They're not all knowing, so they can't tell you a lot of times what the best decision is, but God can. And if you remain faithful, which is, I think, the central theme of the book of Job, remain faithful, God is going to give you what you need, because we see that after all this happened, God gave him everything back. I think he had more, right? So he's going to give you what you need. He's going to provide. But if you're trying to question him and answer him, and like you said, I don't think there's any problem with questions, right? I ask God questions all the time. I don't think there's an issue with questioning. I think that there's an issue with having faith, trusting and believing that God will do what he says he will do for you. So you have to keep your eyes on that. Realize that humans are flawed, and we're just here trying to do the best we can. But God does not make mistakes. God knows what he's doing, and he has reason for doing those things that he does. In his sovereignty, he makes the best decision for us, right? It may not be the decision that we want. We might be suffering much longer than we want to suffer, but we have to know that God has the ultimate decision, right? And God has he's considered you, and he cares enough about you that he is considering how it's going to affect you. But ultimately, he makes the final decision. Sometimes the enemy will use the closest person to you to get you to curse God and not trust him. Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely. I've heard, I heard this yesterday where somebody was speaking. I can't remember who it was. I don't want to put say a name and then this person really say, I'll just say I heard this yesterday. It was right on time. And the person was saying, amen, Miss Key. And the person was saying, oftentimes the hardest people to deal with are the people in your own family, the people in your own household. And if you think about it, that can be true because they're the closest to you. That's probably your most intimate setting. And they know how to push your buttons, don't they? They know how to get under your skin. They know what many of your weaknesses are. So I think that God uses the people in our immediate vicinity, in our area. He uses those people to teach us how to treat other people. And he starts right there, right? Loving your family and your core, even though they have flaws, even though they're going to say some things that get on your nerves, and they will say things that make you happy. It goes both ways. But even though they may not say everything to your liking, they may not do things that you like, right? But you have to love them despite. That's the same thing with your neighbors. Now, I've heard the flip side where they say, I can love my family members, but it's hard to love that neighbor. It may be because you don't know anything about this person, but God is love and still requires us to love our neighbors. And that's what separates us from somebody who's not chosen of God. That's what separates us, the person that proclaims salvation and declares that they believe in God, right? And they believe that he's love. So that is what makes us different. The fact that we can love somebody beyond their flaws and love somebody beyond that thing that they did yesterday that got on our nerves, or that thing that they're doing right now that's making us want to smack them, right? Or that thing that they said and we had a rebuttal and we knew we could win if we would have just said that thing. We knew we could have gotten under their skin and gotten them back, but God was like, don't say that. Don't say it. So he rescues us from those situations. So we might suffer like Job did. We might go through trying times, right? We may face the enemy in situations that we never thought we'd be able to face them. And we may go through things that are just not even comprehensible to us. We're just like, I don't even understand. I don't even know where to start. But God wants us to know that he pulls us through each of those situations, because the same God that helps you to find that parking place right up in the front by Target, you know, when you, I do this, I don't know how many of you do this, but I'm driving around, I'm like, Lord, help me to find a good parking place. And then all of a sudden, when I'm driving around, that parking place opens up. That person is moving out of one of those parking places in the front. And I'm like, woo, thank you. So that same God who allowed me and you to do those small things and to get that parking place right in the front of the store so we ain't have to walk a mile. A mile, okay, a mile is over exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying. Walk a mile through that parking lot to get to the store because it's 18 degrees outside. The same God that allowed us to get that parking space is the same God who can bring us through suffering, who can bring us through loss, who can bring us through devastation, and who can bring us through the unknowing. Like the unknown. We don't know a lot of things. We don't know what's going to happen in our future. In fact, if you're honest, you don't even know what's happening in your present. Right now, I'm sitting here. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 minutes. I have no idea. I think I'm going to be sitting here, right, having this conversation with you all, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So we have to continue to have our faith in God and trust and believe that no matter what the situation is, no matter what you're going through, God's going to be there. And he's going to be there with us, because he said he's not going to leave nor forsake you. So that means he's going to be there. And it's right here in the comment section. Trust God, right? I was looking at somebody's video the other day and they were talking about some experiences that they'd had in life and how they were trying to learn to depend on God and to lean more on him, and to not be so dependent on what other people are saying, to allow them to respond in a certain way or to act in a certain way. And I'm listening to this video. It's about 30 minutes long. I'm listening. The only thing at the end that I could comment and that I wanted to comment was trust God. And I put a period. That's it. Trust God. So I'm going to say the same thing to you today. Trust God, right? No matter what the situation is, trust God. And if you want to find out, if you want to dig more into the book of Job and find out what I was talking about in this lesson, you can read Job 4 through 31 or the entire book. I know it's a lot of books. I think it's 42, 1 through 42. So if you want to read Job, the book of Job, chapters 1 through 42, if you want to get a full understanding of this story and the life of Job, how he remained faithful, what his friends had to say, the 3 friends, because it was separate from what the one friend had to say. You had the 3 friends that were missing the mark as far as trying to help him out and saying what would be reflective of what God was doing. And then you had the one friend who came in, the young one, who was like, hey, no, this is how I see it. And I want to offer my wisdom. I want to offer my perspective. And he told him, and I think Job was able to listen and see it in a different way, even to the point where he's like, Job had to ultimately, say, man, he's right. I got to continue to have faith in God. So that's it. That's what we're doing. Continue to have faith in God. Trust God. Trust him for provision. Trust that he's going to make a way out of no way. Trust that he has you in mind and he wants the best for you. Nothing is a small thing. Nothing is a small thing. All those things that you're going through, he wants to know. He wants to be a part of it. So include him in the small things just like you want to include him in the large things. That's all I have. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Otherwise, I'll see you all tomorrow. Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you for staying in here and hanging out with me today. So in the meantime, yeah, just read the book of Job, and I might come in and say something else about it tomorrow. Who knows? Only God knows. That's it. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. See you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day. Share this out with somebody who might need it. All right. See you all in the next live. Have a good rest of your day.